Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Own Your What? Dream. Own your dream. Take ownership of it. My name is Cheryl Thomas. I am a minister, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and I am a small business owner and entrepreneur. And I do these sessions because sometimes entrepreneurship can feel like such a lonely road. And so I wanted to provide inspiration and motivation for the new and aspiring entrepreneurship. Sometimes when you start a business, you're so excited and you go out and you share your dream with everybody that you feel or you thought was going to be excited for you, only to find out they aren't as excited as you want them to be. Sometimes they aren't even as excited as you need or you feel like you need for them at that moment to be. And so every week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock here at the same place, CherylThomas.co/LTD. That's for living the dream. We'll be giving you inspiration and motivation as you either start or as you grow in your entrepreneurial journey. We'll be giving you tips and tools on how to succeed as an entrepreneur, how to have the right mindset as an entrepreneur, how to go from an employee mindset to a business owner mindset, and how to deal with the people and the friends around you. When you become an entrepreneur, when you start your own business, because what I've realized and what I've noticed is that if you tell people you got a promotion on your job, everybody, applauds you. Everybody is excited for you. You tell them that, you went from being, the receptionist to now you're a director of such and such department. It's like, yes. You post it on Facebook, you post it on Instagram, and they're like, yes, so happy for you, so proud of you. But then when you tell people that you've started a business, that you're an entrepreneur now, you're a small business owner, it's like chirp, chirp, chirp. And so sometimes it can be a little discouraging. Sometimes it can feel a little disheartening, and you can feel like you're in the journey all by yourself. But I'm here to tell you that you are not alone, and that's what this forum is about. It's about giving encouragement. It's about giving motivation and inspiration for the entrepreneur. Now, what I briefly talked about is the noise you hear from everybody else when you're on your entrepreneur journey. But tonight, I want to talk about one of the largest things that confronts or stops and blocks most people from being successful in business. And not just success in business, but success in life. And it's something that you don't think it is. It's something that you probably aren't even aware of. I would dare say that if I told you this, I'm not sure that as entrepreneurs, sometimes we want to feel like we know everything. We want to feel like that we have all the answers. But the majority of the time when you're starting a new business enterprise, you don't know all the answers. You don't have of the insight that you need, but that's okay. What you get from experience, that's what you get on the way to mastery, is all the things that you learn, all the things that you glean on the way. And I thought it not robbery to share with you what I think is one of the most powerful 20 minutes that you're going to experience from Bob Proctor, who is a guru in personal development, has been a $1 million earner producer, and has really cornered the market on what it takes to succeed in life, and learning what it is that blocks us a lot of time from achieving our dreams. And the thing that I want us most to get from tonight is that what's blocking you from your success is not what you think it is. A lot of people, when I ask them that a lot of times, is, what do you think is blocking you? A lot of people will say, I don't have help. I don't have support. Some people will say, I don't have funds, to be an entrepreneur. I don't have, that, and, I wasn't born in the right family. I don't have the right connections. But those aren't really the things that are stopping you from success. And some people would even say fear. I'm fearful, so that's why I won't launch out into entrepreneurship. But I'm going to share something tonight from Bob Proctor that I thought was really, really powerful and that I think you will find really helpful. And it talks about one thing that stops and blocks a lot of people from being successful. And it's because you don't know. And I'll let him tell you the rest. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see it, so you can find out what is not only what's blocking you from being successful, but how to root yourself from that so that you can go to the levels that God is calling you to go to, so that you can have the kind of success that you want to have. And so we're going to dig looking at.
My experience has been people attend seminars, especially self-development seminars, to look for the answer. They want to know, what is it out there I can learn so that I can be more successful? That wasn't your motivation?
No, oddly enough. And I think probably you're right. I think that's what most people are looking for. I think they're looking for an answer outside of themselves, and they're never going to find it. I think by this time I realized it was something in me. I met a man here in Toronto. He was one that originally got me involved in studying this, Ray Stanford. And he told me if I didn't like the results I was getting in my life, that I was going to have to change me because they were my results. And he said, if you're going to change you, you're going to have to find out something about yourself. It seemed to make sense. I don't think it was an earth-shattering idea. It wouldn't give anybody a brain hernia, but it made a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I mean, I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
That's not you, though. That's just it. If you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like, you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick. Okay. We don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question. And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies. Okay. But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Okay, and would you call that one of the barriers to success?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think there's two barriers. Success is a funny word. Nightingale had a great definition for it. He said a person's successful if they know where they are, and they know where they're going, and they're progressively moving in that direction. He said that success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money.
Okay.
But she's a pretty successful lady. So it's...
so that barrier to success...
Well, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
I think there's two barriers. One is our conditioning. The conditioning that takes place in our subconscious mind from the time we're infants. All we can do is act and talk like the people around us. That's why we learn the language we learn. If there was 10 languages spoken in our home, we'd learn 10 languages without any trouble. There's usually one, and that's the only one we ever learn. And we grow older and we go, I couldn't learn another language. We could learn 100 if we wanted to. You can do anything. But I think we're conditioned. We have a real strong conditioning, usually with not some very good ideas. And then that's the barrier that's inside us. The one that's outside of us is our environment. We have a tendency to act like everybody around us. And if you think about this, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if you study statistics, 95% of the people live their entire life and never live the way they want to live. You know that 95% of the population in this country, let's say in North America, okay, the richest continent in the history of the world, they'll work productively, let's say for 40 of their 65 years, okay, and they'll end up with hardly any money. There's got to be something wrong. So 5% of the people end up financially comfortable or independent.
Are you trying to depress us, Bob? Because that's
no, actually, I think it's quite an exciting idea, because you see, the idea behind it is that anybody can win, anyone at all. But if we start studying these statistics, I think we'll arrive at the conclusion, geez, I better start thinking for myself rather than follow everybody. Most people, they get a job, they look around, they see how everybody else is doing their work, and they start doing it the same way. They should stop. Any of these people know what they're doing. Is there a better way to do it?
But don't we have a need to fit in? I mean, we don't want to stand out. We don't want to get fired. We don't want to make waves.
Exactly. Just fall into line. Take a number. Be like everybody around. That'd be great in the animal kingdom. But human beings aren't supposed to live that way. I think we should make a few waves. We should maybe stand out, be different. Not for the sake of being different, okay, but because we are different. We all think different thoughts. And I believe we should start to think and build images in our mind of what we'd like to do and then set out and do it. Okay. Emerson did that. Edison did that. Marconi did that. Samuel Morse did that. Buckminster Fuller did that. We could go on and on and on. Okay, they were different. They stood out. They made a few waves.
Okay, you started with you saying you started with a search for yourself to try to find out more about yourself, and you were somewhat successful along the way.
Well, I didn't start it like that at the beginning. I started out wanting a lot of money. I figured if I had enough money, I was going to cure all my problems. I found that wasn't true. I earned a fair amount of problems or money, and I seemed to have more problems. But I after working at this for a few years, I decided that the real answer is get to know yourself a little better. Okay. And I don't think you have to go out in the Himalayas and become a guru to.
Okay. What did you do to learn about yourself? You said you went around as many seminars.
I attended seminars. I went and listened to different speakers who taught something about the mind. I think the answer's in our mind if we'll start studying and trying to understand our mind.
Okay. Let me get back to you if I can. What did you learn about Bob Proctor during that study?
Well, I learned that the biggest part of me you'll never see. It's non-physical. And what you see here in the physical body is nothing but the physical manifestation of the higher side of my personality. And of course, that's true with you. And, Nancy's on the camera. It's true of everyone. And what we have to study, I think, is how does this non-physical part of my mind work? What happens when I think? Where do thoughts come from? How was this chair built? Somebody had to think. Thoughts are everywhere, and we pull thoughts into our mind and we build pictures or images in our mind. Okay. What we want to understand is that's a non-physical side of ourselves that's doing that. If I can build an image of something in my mind, I'm quite capable of building a physical replica of it in my world. So if I build an image of me as a happy, relaxed person, I can live like that. If I build an image of myself as being prosperous, I can become prosperous.
So if we think rich, we will be rich.
Absolutely. We're already rich, just short of money.
Okay, those of us that like to acquire more money and or happiness or whatever we see success, those of us that want to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves, we do it first by...
Well, the first thing you do is sit down and decide what you want. If it's money you want, how much money?
Lots of money.
Well, nobody knows how much lots is. Okay. So you've got to be specific. Okay. You write down on a card exactly what you want. And you carry that card around and read it often. Now, this is what I learned in this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's what I teach in the seminars. I'll teach people how to set goals. But you decide exactly what you want. And then you start to think. Now, you're going to have thoughts come to your mind of why you can't get it. You have the ability in your conscious mind to reject that idea, kick it out of your mind. Thinking of why you can't do something is never going to do you any good. And keep thinking until you start to think of thoughts of how you can do it. And the way will be shown to you. It comes in the form of images in our mind. Think of how you can and not why you can't.
Okay. So our first step is to set
That's the first step.
Think about how we can go about reaching those goals.
Exactly. And just think of how you can. Now, I'd say before you get into that, you should get a good book and start to study it. Select a person who is already doing something that you'd like to do. Get to know that person. Go to the experts for advice. Don't ask the person next door, your mother, father, brother, or the guy who works beside you, because they don't necessarily know. There's no point in asking the person how to earn a lot of money if they're only earning $10,000 a year. They don't know. If they knew, they'd probably be earning a lot. It's like, don't go to a sick doctor if you want to get healthy.
Okay.
So you find someone that you can go to for advice. Get a real good book and lock into that book and start to study it. Like, I bet this one looks like a Bible, you know. But this is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've been reading this thing now for 23 years. I'll probably read it for another 23 years. I got another good book that I brought over here today. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. I'm not getting a commission for selling this. The author's dead now. He's been gone for a couple of years. But Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And that's probably one of the best books that you're ever going to find, because you're going to learn something about your mind when you read this book. Okay. Now, I read a lot of books. I've got probably 1,000 books in my den at home in my library. But the one that I carry it everywhere I go, and I read it all the time, is Think and Grow Rich. I never stop reading it.
Now, where's the value for you to reread that? Well, I mean, you must know it well enough that...
I think I could probably recite it verbatim. But the secret is, I once read a book that said, when you read a good book through the second time, you don't see something in it that you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. You see, when I read this, I create a greater awareness. Let me just read you one line out of here, or two lines, okay? Hill said, the missing link in all systems of education known to civilization today may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. He went on to say that we should understand the real meaning of the word educate. It's not going to a brick and mortar edifice for 25 years. That's gathering information. You'll probably develop your memory, but I would question how well you develop your mind. And I'm not against education, because I encourage my children to go to school, as we know. Now, he said the word education comes from the word educo. And he says it's derived from the Latin word educo, meaning to induce, to draw out, or to develop from within. An educated person is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they may acquire anything they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. An educated person is the one that knows how to go and get what they want out of life without being selfish.
In the sense of researcher, somebody who knows what they're looking for and knows how to go about finding.
Well, I think we should forever be involved in research, because learning is a lifelong process. You never stop learning. Education means to draw from within. We're drawing on an infinite source. We've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. We can learn to do anything. We have phenomenal powers. If we used our body like we used our mind, we'd probably just move our little finger.
We don't exercise our mind enough.
No, but we're not taught to. Kids in school should be taught, before the school year ever starts, to sit down. They should be given a blank report card and get them to visualize the marks they want to get and write their own report card. This is before school starts, first week in school. And then the teacher should say, now I want you just to concentrate on how to get that mark, and I don't want you to think of why you can't. And I want you to form the attitude that you're going to get it. Now, some people say that's not being realistic. That's being very realistic. That's following the success principles that go back 6,000 years in recorded history. That's how everything was accomplished.
That's not engaging in fantasy thinking.
Hell no.
Thinking. In daydream, we talk about.
No. Well, that's where all greatness comes from. Greatness comes from fantasy. I would imagine that when Edison first saw the light bulb, he was fantasizing. But he kept fantasizing, and he built it into a theory, and then he built it into an image, and then he built it into a fact. I mean, when I was a kid, it was a fantasy to think of going to the moon. We've been up there with cars, playing golf.
You mentioned in terms of success principles, attitude, this business of attitude.
Attitude. It takes in the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. I'd have a difficult time really explaining attitude right just in a conversation. I used a board in the seminar, and I did an attitude seminar last night. We spent 3 hours dealing with that one subject, so to do it here in 3 minutes, I can't do it. I haven't learned how yet.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
I recognize it's difficult because we
You have
talk.
to have a winning attitude, though, Tom.
Okay. In human relations, we talk about the toughest thing with managing people. The toughest thing to deal with is their attitude.
That's right.
That's almost impossible.
That's the one thing management falls down.
We can't change people's attitudes.
Well, nobody can change another person's attitude. The only attitude we can change is our own. But you see, if management have the idea it's their attitude, we can't do anything about it, then they're not going to do anything about it. But if management arrive at the conclusion, yes, it is attitude, and let's teach the people something about attitude. Let's teach them something about themselves. Let's make them realize that they're worth something, that they're valuable, that the greatest resource we've got. Companies spend about 65% of every dollar that comes in goes back out on employees and wages and benefits. And yet management knows less about employees than anything else. They know more about the gadgets and the widgets than they do about the people.
Okay, so your suggestion is we develop a winning attitude.
Absolutely.
Can you define that for me, first of all? What is a winning attitude?
Well, if we can understand, let me digress for a second. The whole universe operates by laws, and there's a law of opposites. It's called the law of polarity. Everything has its opposite. There's a right and a left side. Mm-hmm. There's a front and a back, an up and a down, a hot and cold, positive and negative, yin and the yang. You know, well, you can think negative or you can think positive, but you can't think both at the same time. You're only going to think one way at one time, and we have to train our mind to think or look for the positive or the good in things. There's good in everything. There's no such thing as no good.
Car broke down on the way over to the station.
There's something good about it. There's something good about it. Now, you may have to look to find out what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's something good in everything. There has to be a positive and a negative for anything to exist. There's a law of gender that decrees that. Science understands it. It's taught in science. But once we understand that there's this law of opposites, there's negative thoughts or positive thoughts. As the thought energy flows into our mind, we decide what we're going to think. Person's at work, they can decide to think I can't find a job, but they can decide to think I can. If they're thinking I'm going to find one, then they'll start attracting a train of thought to them, figuring out how to find it. You really have to understand how your conscious and your subconscious mind works in relation to your body or your physical world to understand attitude. Attitude should be taught as a subject in school ahead of reading, writing, arithmetic, or anything else. Because it's the person's attitude that's going to determine the marks they get.
Okay, and maybe part of attitude or related to attitude is this business of self-image.
Yeah, well, that would, like we were talking about success principles, and I was saying you got to get the winning attitude, you've got to set a goal. Then you have to work on self-image. Now, when we think, we build images in our mind. Dr. Maxwell Maltz discovered the self-image concept as we know it today. In 1960, he was a plastic surgeon. And he realized he was operating on people. He may remove a nasty scar from their face. And he noticed sometimes when he removed the scar, maybe did a nose job on them or something, there was a great psychological change took place in the person. They may have been introverted. They started to become very gregarious and outgoing. And he postulated that there must be two images that we have, an exterior image, and we also have an inner self-image. Mm-hmm. And he started to study this, and he wrote a magnificent book on it called Psycho-Cybernetics. Mm-hmm. And psycho-cybernetics, psycho being the mind, cybernetics being the science of control and communication. And he goes into this, and he explains how every one of us has an image in our mind of ourself, and it's called self-image. Too many people don't know much about themselves, and so they don't have a very good image of themselves. And you'll often notice that people will shy away from you. They won't look you in the eye. They'll look down or look up. They'll never try to do anything of any great consequence because they don't think they can. They have a poor self-image.
Okay. Part of that is because through school we're told about what we don't do well. We failed here, we had low grades, or
that could be part of it.
60%
yeah.
or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's been a great disservice done with the IQ test in that respect when you're bringing out school. Benet, the Frenchman, back around the turn of the century, invented the IQ test, and then we brought it over from Stanford over here. And we'll test a person's intellect, and then we'll brand them good, bad, smart, not. And that's not true. We can change IQs by changing self-images. But yes, if we're told we're not very good, you're just like you're dead, you're a bum, you're never going to do well, you didn't go to school, you can't win.
Okay.
That's all true. That's all false. We can do anything, and we should be encouraging a child. Give them a pat on the back rather than a kick.
Okay. What can we do? Members of our viewing audience right now, most of us walk around with some degree of self-image. Is that fair to say?
We all have a self-image.
Okay. Would you say most of us have a negative self-image to some degree?
Well, let's say we can all improve our self-image.
Okay.
I don't care how good your image is, you can improve it.
Okay. How can we improve it? Something specific. How can we go about making our self-image more positive?
Well, again, you're getting into a whole day seminar. If I could give you just a simple tip on it, if a person would sit down and let their body relax, totally relax,
okay,
and then start to visualize in their mind, see themselves the way they want to see themselves.
Which may take a good deal of thought. Since we're not
well, you relax. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of how we want to see ourselves. Maybe we don't know how we want to
relate it to something specific.
Somebody we admire, maybe, or
possibly
somewhere we'd like to see yourself down the road.
Okay. Yeah. See how you'd like to live your life. See yourself living it that way. Now, understand that that's a picture in your mind. When you pick up a book, the book is nothing but a picture that an author has painted in words. Van Gogh, the great artist, was asked one time how he did such beautiful work. He said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. They get the picture in the mind, and then paint it on the wall or on the canvas. Well, if we would relax and build the image in our mind of how we'd like to see ourselves, how we'd like to see ourselves acting in life, relating to other people, our social life, see ourselves in the position we hold, or how we make our sales presentations if we happen to be in selling or something, and then take that picture and describe it, write it out in the present tense. I am so happy now that I see myself, and write it out. Now, a lot of people will laugh at this and say, that doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot of sense. They can't tell you what it doesn't. I could spend hours telling you why it does, and I could explain it in such detail that everyone would understand it. But write out a description of how you'd like to see yourself. Start to read it, and read it, and read it, and read it every day. Carry it around and keep reading it. The one point that all the great teachers, all down through history, have all agreed on, they've been in complete unanimous agreement on it, to become what we think about. Now, it may be fantasy at first. It might even appear to us as being a lie. But if you read it often enough, you'll start to believe it. And when William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact, you will see the person's personality change. I watch people in the seminars, personality change right in front of my eyes. And all they're doing is starting to see themselves different. They're starting to think different thoughts.
So our thoughts control our actions?
Oh, there's no question about it. No, our thoughts control our feelings.
Okay.
Our feelings control our actions.
And we control our thoughts.
Absolutely.
We can control
our thoughts, yes.
Generally, though, one of our difficulties, one of our problems maybe is that we tend to react to what other people tell us, and we consequently get the negative thoughts, and then that affects our feelings, and then that affects our behavior.
That's right. That's exactly the way it is. We read the newspaper. Doom and gloom's coming. We just accept it. Doom and gloom doesn't have to be coming. Do you know there's always been a depression for some people? I grew up with the idea that everybody went broke in the 30s. They didn't. Some made millions. I thought everybody went out of business. They didn't. Some people went into business. There's always a depression for some people, and there's always good times for others. Let's ask ourselves when we read something in the paper, do I want to get emotionally involved in that idea? If it's a negative idea, I don't want to get emotionally involved with it. I don't read the paper that often. I do, but I don't dwell on it.
You don't get emotionally involved.
No. When an idea comes into your mind, whether somebody else tells you or whether you read it in the paper, we should reason with it. Ask ourselves, will that idea help me get to where I want to go? If it won't, reject the idea.
Okay. All right. Bob, I appreciate it. Our half hour's gone by already.
Went fast.
Very quickly. Those that are interested in learning more about your philosophy of success and
Hey, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed that. I know it was probably a little deep, a little thought-provoking, but what I have learned through my 10 years of being in business and ministry is that business is thinking. A lot of people think that business is all of the actions that you have to take to be successful. But what I have learned from great scholars, what I've learned from great thinkers, what I've learned from million and billion dollar business owners is that business is at first great thinking. So I wanted to kind of jar your thinking process to make sure that you are thinking through things that may be blocking you. And I loved how they talked about, or Bob talked about, you're blocked from success because you don't know who you are. And because you don't know who you are, you don't operate at the level that you could be operating. So the first thing is to frame who you are, to learn who you are, what you're capable of, how your mind works, and how that affects everything in your life. Because what I'm learning from just observing human behavior, observing human behavior and the very successful, whether that is successful in finances, whether that is successful in happiness, whether that's successful in having peace. What I've learned from studying them and watching them is that their mental processes are so different from those that aren't successful. The way they think, the way they process thought, the way they process ideas, the way they process emotion is very different. Three things I want you to take away as we close out on tonight is one thing that I love that he talked about is when you when you encounter an obstacle, or when you encounter a roadblock, or when you encounter a block in business, instead of saying, oh wow, what another, woe is me, another obstacle, oh wow, woe is me, another roadblock. Think of how you can. Don't even worry about the obstacle. Think of how you can overcome that. Instead of being upset, instead of being depressed, instead of seeing that as another hindrance, see it as an opportunity to overcome. How can I overcome this now? The second thing was go to experts. Instead of asking your friends and your relatives about how to be successful, go to people that you see that are already successful and glean from them. And you may be saying, well, I don't know anybody that's close to me that I can touch or that I can have access to learn about success. Get their books. If you love the ministry of Bishop T.D. Jakes and you love how he does ministry, you love how he does movies or whatever, get his books. You don't have to meet him in person. There's so much wisdom packed in the book. So books can mentor you where you can't have like a one-on-one personal mentoring. He talked about a book that I love that I'm reading for, just finished reading a month or so ago. This is my second time reading it, getting ready to read it again. Think and Grow Rich. It's a wonderful book to kind of train your mind as to how to think success and how to train yourself to expect success, because you know who you are, you know who your Father is, God, and you know that he has success for you. So go to the experts and get their expertise, and you can get that from books. You don't have to actually have a person one-on-one to get that. And the third thing is, I like what he says, is we become what we think about. The Bible says that as a man thinketh, so is he. So train your mind to think great thoughts about you, because the business is not the widgets that you sell. The business is not the services that you promote. If you are an entrepreneur and you are, let's say, a speaker or writer, that's not the business. This right here is the business. Your thought process, how you project, and that all has to come from confidence in who you are. So you do have to know who you are. And as I close, I love this last statement that he says, is there's always going to be depression and there's always going to be success. They're always going to operate in tandem. You will decide what you're going to be involved in. Like I said, there's always depression. There's always success. You decide. Jesus said, the poor you have with you always. You don't have to be one of them. but the choice is yours. When you have right thinking about who you are, number one, and whose you are, number two, you will always be successful. So thank you so much for joining me on this evening. It has been my pleasure having you. Again, my name is Cheryl Thomas, author, speaker, minister, and entrepreneur extraordinaire. I'm here to help you on your entrepreneurial journey, to give you inspiration and motivation as you walk through the process. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. God bless you. Mwah. Have a great week.